Hey guys, Aaron here, coming at you with a knife review. Gonna talk about the Kershaw Cryo tonight. Um, this is a knife I've had for quite a while, and I've spent some time with it. I've spent some time handling it and using it, and I have to tell you, I know a few people out there that aren't big fans of it. I actually really kind of dig it, and I'm gonna talk about why. But I think it's an exciting knife at an exciting price point that offers a lot for what you pay. So yeah, I'm really excited about this knife myself. But the Cryo is a Rick Hinderer designed folding knife. Rick Hinderer worked with Kershaw to design this. The new Cryo that's coming out that was just announced at SHOT. Rick also designed the Zero Tolerance 0550, 0560. Along with a few other knives with different companies. He's very prolific in what he designs. And if you aren't familiar with his knives, he's really famous for his XM series, which I think is interestingly related to this particular knife. With its slim profile and blade size and the popularity of his XM series, the XM18s, I think this was an attempt for Kershaw to put a very well-designed, nicely profiled knife into the price point that somebody who may or may not be a custom knife collector could afford. You can tell here. This is the Cryo, obviously, and this is the XM18. This is a 3-inch flipper. They're very, very similar. There's a big difference in price and in build quality here, but you can tell in sort of size and feel/design that there's a bit of a comparison here. This is obviously a tiny bit bigger and much nicer. And, hey, Cole, if you are watching this video, talking to Kaleshnikov12345, check out that edge I got on there. Anyways, I digress. So I think the Cryo was kind of a reach to market this particular design of knife to somebody that's not going to... these go on the secondary market for like $600 or $700. I know they're about $400, $300 from Rick, but most people don't buy knives that expensive. So I think this was an attempt to market a knife at that price point to everyone else. That's my opinion. Just some general specs to get out of the way. This knife is 6.5 inches long total, so it's relatively small with a 3-inch blade. It is about 0.375 inches thick with a blade thickness of 0.125 inches. Pretty standard blade thickness I'm finding on these smaller profiled knives. More than capable of any sort of medium to light duty EDC task that you would ask of it. The blade steel is 8CR13 MOV, and it weighs 4.2 ounces, which I would think is a little heavy for this size of knife, but I think that's acceptable. So, overall ergonomics of the knife itself, I think are really great. It is a small, I get a very firm 3-fingered grip on it with kind of my pinky hanging off the end, sort of just kind of riding along. But it's a very secure grip. The handle scales would normally be relatively slick if it wasn't for the fact that you have a good thumb jimping here, you have some jimping here that your pinky is going to rest on, and then you have the choil formed by the flipper, really effectively formed by the flipper here. I just think this is an excellent design. Locks into my hand well. You have a slight negative angle on the handle, just like you do on the Hinderer, and I think that really aids in sort of, like melting into your hand and really becoming an extension of your grip. So overall, I think it's a really comfortable knife to hold. The clip is interesting. I like this clip. This is one of Kershaw's fairly standard deep carry pocket clips. It holds nice and tight, no complaints there. The one thing I will say is that I did find that it carried very deep, and it was difficult to extract a knife of this size from my pocket with this kind of clip on there. So my solution was a lanyard. That it makes it really easy to get the knife out, and it also kind of acts as an extension to your grip if you need it to be. So overall, I really like the clip. There's just the consideration of whether or not you're going to be able to get it in and out of your pocket. Deployment and lockup, pretty self-explanatory. It's a flipper knife. You guys know how I feel about flipper knives. It's a frame lock too, which is kind of exciting for this price point. But it's assisted, and I know that some guys have had a little bit of weirdness about assisted knives. And here's what I'm going to say. When I reviewed the Kershaw Skyline, a relatively comparably priced knife, I actually think the Skyline is slightly more expensive. One of the critiques I had is that the flipping action can be a little inconsistent. And largely what that is a result of is the fact that to build a good flipper, you need to kind of tune the balance between your detent, your flipper position, and whatever sort of washer or bearing deal you have going on here. And there's blade weight and all kinds of stuff like that that plays into the equation as well. So you really have to kind of balance that mix out. What Kershaw did was they just fixed it with a torsion bar. Every time you deploy this knife now, you get a very positive deployment every time. Whereas, there's no wrist flick. It's just, you just push down on the flipper and it deploys. There might be some legalities in some states with, and that's the reason why some guys really don't like it. I think it was a elegant solution to the problem of designing a cheap flipper that's not hand assembled. I think it fixes it. I think it gives you a good lockup and a very consistent deployment. I have no problems with it. If you don't like assisted knives in general, this probably isn't the knife for you, because this is a very assisted knife. The lockup is a frame lock. For a $30 knife, that's pretty sweet. It's very secure. You'll notice no play in any direction. And it's rather late. It came this way. And I have flipped this knife a ton and noticed no movement. Now, this the handle scales are made of 410 steel, and so you're going to have steel on the blade tang. The only thing that I think kind of plays into that is Kershaw's Tainai, which is, I wrote it down here, titanium carbonitride coating, which is coating the entire knife, the blade and the handle scales. That might have something to do with kind of the lockup interface. Maybe it's what's reducing the wear or something like that. But as I said, I have noticed no play whatsoever in any direction and a very firm and consistent lockup. So to get a frame lock at $30, I think is a really great sort of deal. Most frame lock knives are going to be more expensive than that. So the tension on the lock bar is rather tight, just the way that it is. It's also worth pointing out that this comes with Rick Hinderer's LBS, Lock Bar Stabilizer. And what that does is that's going to prevent you from overextending the lock bar out and reducing the tension on there. Now, I don't know how much of an issue that is, because it's difficult to extend the lock bar enough just to unlock the knife. Doable, but difficult. So, whether or not that's needed, or if they're just going after the aesthetic to kind of mirror the XM series, who knows. But it's a cool feature that you don't see on many knives in this price point. I'm going to keep saying that because this knife has a lot of features that you don't see on $30 knives. So that's really neat. Next up, blade shape and blade materials are what you would expect. It's a drop-pointed blade, nice little bit of belly, a good functional tip here. It should serve you well in all of your typical EDC, medium to light duty EDC duties. This is not going to be a defend your life blade, and this is not going to be a blade that you baton through a log. It should be a great food prep, letter opener, box cutter, what have you kind of knife. There's nothing overly exciting about the blade shape. It's just a traditional drop point. Got a nice little decorative swedge up here on the spine, but apart from that, there's not much to say. The blade steel is 8CR13 MOV, which is a good low-quality blade steel. I say good low-quality blade steel because it is. It's cheap. I like it more than AUS 8. I don't really have any reasoning behind that other than I can get a better edge on 8CR13 MOV than I can AUS 8. I think it will hold an edge relatively well, and it will be easy to sharpen. Overall, the blade shape and the blade steel are a good average across the board. They're not amazing, they're not revolutionary, there's no incredible grind or anything on there. It does feel like it's hollow ground. I didn't look that up before, but I believe it's a hollow ground blade, so it'll make a pretty good slicer. So that's pretty cool. So yeah. And kind of in conclusion, just to wrap this up, coming on 10, we're a little over 10 minutes now. The Kershaw's a weird knife to me. You get a flipper deployed assisted knife with a lock bar stabilizer. It's pillared construction. You can see they're completely flow through pillared construction, like you would see on the XM18. It's assisted. You have a good blade shape. You have a low ride pocket clip. You got that tie-dye coating, all for $30. I think it's an incredible deal for what you get, and I would highly, highly recommend it. Some of the features, like I said, the blade steel and the blade shape, they're what you would expect. There's nothing revolutionary about them. But for this price point, I think it's an incredible value for what you're getting. So overall, I believe the Kershaw Cryo is a solid win in my book. Some opinions may differ, but I don't really know what to say about that other than, your mileage may vary, as the great Fancy says. So, there you go. I think that's it, guys. Thanks a lot. It's Aaron out of here.